You're good at your job. You're loyal. You work hard. You do everything they tell you to do to be a valued employee. So why do you have that nagging feeling that if you disappear tomorrow, your biggest legacy would be an empty chair that's filled by next Monday? This feeling isn't paranoia. It's the silent, grinding truth of the modern world. You're told to be a team player, transparent and authentic. But you look around and see the ones who get ahead, the ones who are truly secure. Aren't just playing the game, they're operating on a completely different level. They move with a quiet confidence, a strategic purpose that you can't quite decipher. They aren't just valued, they are protected. They are necessary. The 11th century diplomat Niccolò Machiavelli knew the cold truth. Being liked isn't the same as being necessary. For 500 years, his work has been studied by leaders as a ruthless playbook on power. His writing isn't about being evil. It's about understanding the brutal reality of human nature and using it to secure your position. In this video, we're distilling that timeless wisdom into 7 rules for the modern age. These aren't platitudes from a corporate handbook. These are principles of power, updated for today, designed to transform you from a replaceable cog into the indispensable architect of your own career. This is your guide to becoming not just valuable, but utterly irreplaceable in any room you enter. Rule 1. Master the art of presence and silence. They told you to speak up, to have a voice, to make sure your ideas are heard in every meeting. They said visibility is key, and that the squeaky wheel gets to grease. This is the first lie of modern work culture. A piece of advice that keeps you on a hamster wheel of self-promotion, constantly needing to prove your worth through volume. You talk and talk, explaining your logic, defending your position, filling every silence because you've been taught that silence is a vacuum of power. But what if the opposite is true? What if the loudest person in the room is actually the most vulnerable? Machiavelli never explicitly wrote Bisalielli, but his philosophy is built on controlled action and observations. That's impossible without mastering silence. He wrote, "Men in general judge more by the sense of sight than by the sense of touch, because everyone can see but few can test by feeling." To adapt that for today, people often judge you more by your presence than by your arguments. The real meaning here is that power isn't projected through constant speech. It's established through a calm, observant, and deliberate presence. When you speak constantly, you reveal your strategy, your anxieties, and your need for validation. You give others everything they need to read you, predict you, and counter you. Silence, on the other hand, creates a void. It makes other people uncomfortable. They rush to fill it, and in their haste, they reveal their intentions, their weaknesses, their insecurities. Your silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront their own thoughts, while yours remain hidden and protected. Think of a high-stakes negotiation. One side presents its case with charts, data, and passionate pleas. They finish and look to you for a response. The amateur immediately jumps in, countering point by point, engaging in the verbal battle on their terms. But the master of power does something else. They hold the silence. They pause, not for 1 second, but for 3, maybe 4. They maintain eye contact, their expression unreadable. In those few seconds, a profound psychological shift occurs. The other side, expecting a reaction, gets none. They start to second-guess themselves. Was their offer too low? Did they reveal too much? Is there something you know that they don't? Their confidence wavers. They start talking again, offering concessions, explaining their reasoning further, negotiating against themselves before you've even said a word. You've gained ground without expending any energy. You've won the first battle by refusing to fight. This is the power of a deliberate presence. It communicates that you aren't reactive. You are in control. This isn't about being shy or passive. It's about weaponizing your stillness. It's about understanding that your words are a finite resource, and their value diminishes with overuse. Every word should be a calculated investment designed to achieve a specific outcome. The rest of the time, your presence should do the work. Here's how you start becoming irreplaceable. First, practice the 3-second pause. Before you answer any question or react to any statement, take a full, deliberate 3-second pause. This small habit breaks the cycle of emotional reaction and gives you a moment to choose your response strategically. Second, sometimes answer a question with a question. When someone presses you for information, instead of giving it away freely, you can turn it back to them. That's an interesting point. What's your main concern with this approach? This can compel them to reveal their underlying motives. Third, master the silent exit. In a conversation that's going nowhere, or when you've been disrespected, don't argue. Don't offer a parting shot. Simply end the conversation and walk away. Your absence and the silence it leaves behind will be a more powerful statement than any insult you could ever deliver. You have to unlearn the desire to be heard and instead cultivate the power of being felt. Let your presence fill the room so that when you finally do speak, your words land with the force of a hammer, not the buzz of a fly. This is the first step toward becoming untouchable. Rule 2: it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. The modern workplace is obsessed with likability. You're encouraged to be a friend to your colleagues, a supportive leader, and to cultivate a warm environment. They tell you that a loved leader is an effective leader. This is a comforting, but dangerously incomplete philosophy. It mistakes affection for respect and popularity for power. Machiavelli's most infamous and misunderstood statement cuts through this sentimentality with surgical precision. Upon this, a question arises: whether it be better to be loved than feared or feared than loved. One should wish to be both. But because it is difficult to unite them in one person, it is much safer to be feared than loved. A continuous love is preserved by the link of obligation which, owing to the baseness of men, is broken at every opportunity for their advantage, but fear preserves you by a dread of punishment which never fails. Let's translate this. Love in this context is the fickle affection of your colleagues. It's the result of being agreeable, of doing favors, of saying yes when you should say no. This kind of loyalty is built on sentiment, and as Machiavelli points out, it will evaporate the moment it becomes inconvenient. The colleague who loves you today might throw you under the bus tomorrow to save their own career. Fear, on the other hand, is not about being a tyrant. And let's be clear, Machiavelli specifically warned that a leader must, above all else, avoid being hated. In the modern context, this kind of fear means respect for consequences. It's the understanding that you're a person of substance, that your decisions have weight, and that crossing you has a professional cost. This fear is born from competence, consistency, and the willingness to act decisively. Imagine a manager. Let's call him David. David wants to be loved. He avoids tough conversations, endlessly extends deadlines, and overlooks poor performance. His office is friendly and relaxed, but projects are late, standards are slipping, and high performers are resentful. When corporate decides to downsize, they see a department with low productivity. David, despite being liked, is seen as ineffectual. He and his team are vulnerable. His desire to be loved made him replaceable. Now consider another manager, Sarah. Sarah isn't unkind, but she's firm. She sets clear, high standards and holds everyone to them. When someone underperforms, she has a direct, unemotional conversation about it. If they don't improve, they're removed from the project. She isn't a friend to her employees. She's a leader. Her team doesn't necessarily love her, but they respect her. They fear the consequence of failing to meet her standards, and this fear motivates them. When corporate looks at Sarah's department, they see a high output, disciplined unit. Sarah isn't just valued. She's essential. She has made herself irreplaceable by choosing to be respected, feared rather than loved. The fear Machiavelli speaks of is the fear of losing your favor, the fear of being on the wrong side of your judgment, the fear of being exposed as incompetent because you command excellence. It's the silent respect a person has for a finely crafted blade. They don't hate it, but they handle it with care. To build this strategic fear, first, become the arbiter of quality. Establish a reputation for having the highest standards. When you review work, be exacting. When you give praise, make it rare and meaningful, so it becomes a coveted reward. People will begin to fear the quiet disappointment of not meeting your standards. Second, enforce your boundaries ruthlessly. If you set a deadline, it must be met. If you state a consequence, you must follow through. Every time you let something slide, You're teaching people that your rules are just suggestions. Third, demonstrate that your loyalty is to the mission, not to individuals. While others play social games, you must be seen as the person focused purely on the outcome. This means making decisions promoting one person. Cutting a popular project that may be unpopular, but are undeniably for the good of the objective. This detaches you from petty politics and elevates you to a strategist. People will fear opposing you because you're aligned with a purpose larger than personal feelings. You may not be the most popular person at the office party, but you will be the one they turn to when things go wrong. They will not love you. They will need you. And in the world of power, necessity is the only currency that never loses its value. Rule 3, be the fox and the lion. They tell you to be strong and decisive, to be a lion in your career. Charge forward and command through pure force. Or they advise you to be clever, to be a fox. Play the political game and win through cunning. Both pieces of advice are incomplete. The brute force of the lion walks directly into traps, and the cleverness of the fox is useless. When cornered by wolves, Machiavelli laid out a more sophisticated model of power. He wrote that since a leader must know how to act like a beast, he must learn from the fox and the lion, because the lion is defenseless against traps, and a fox is defenseless against wolves. Therefore, one must be a fox in order to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten off wolves. This isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about developing the psychological flexibility to be both and knowing precisely when to shift gears. The lion is your capacity for bold, powerful action. This is the force you use to intimidate rivals, push through a critical project, or make a final, non-negotiable decision. When you act as the lion, your presence is commanding, your words are direct, and your will is clear. The lion doesn't negotiate its power, it displays Italiano. The fox, however, is your ability to be cunning, subtle, and strategic. The fox doesn't confront enemies head-on. It lays snares for them. The fox understands the hidden networks of influence, gathers intelligence quietly, and builds alliances behind the scenes. Think about how this plays out. Today, the pure lion is all strength and no subtlety. They're predictable. They walk right into modern traps, like a poorly worded email that sparks an HR complaint. The pure fox is all cunning and no strength. They're seen as slippery and untrustworthy. They can navigate office politics, but when a direct confrontation is unavoidable, they crumble. They can't command respect, only suspicion. The irreplaceable individual seamlessly integrates both. In public, they might project the strength of the lion, maintaining a reputation for being formidable. But in private, they operate as the fox, constantly analyzing the political landscape and anticipating threats. Consider the launch of a new product. As the project lead, you must be the lion setting a bold vision and crushing roadblocks. But simultaneously, you must be the fox. You know another team lead, Mark, is trying to sabotage your project because it competes with his? A lion would confront Mark directly, causing a messy political battle. But you, the fox, do something different. You accidentally let it slip to Mark's boss that you're considering integrating one of Mark's key technologies, which would make his department look crucial. You then invite Mark to a strategy meeting, framing him as a key partner. You've laid a trap. If he sabotages you, he sabotages his own team's success. You've neutralized him without a direct fight. To cultivate this dual nature, first, map the battlefield. Every office is a landscape of traps, political schemes, hidden rules, and wolves' direct rivals. Before you act, identify what you're facing. Does this need a show of force or careful navigation? Second, practice a public-private split persona. Publicly, cultivate your lion. Be decisive and take a stand. Privately, engage your fox. Listen more than you speak in informal settings. Observe who has influence, and think 3 moves ahead. Third, build a diverse arsenal. Don't rely only on direct orders. The lion or subtle influence the fox. Learn to negotiate with both force and finesse. The more tools you have, the more adaptable you become. The world doesn't need another lion or another fox. It needs a hybrid, a creature of terrifying adaptability. When you can be both, you become unpredictable, and what people cannot predict they cannot control. Rule 4: control the narrative. For perception is reality. You believe your work should speak for itself. You think truth, facts, and performance are the ultimate arbiters of value. This is an honorable and catastrophically naive way to view the world. In the theater of power, the objective truth of your work is only half the battle. The other half, the one that often matters more, is perception. Machiavelli understood this with chilling clarity, stating, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few feel what you are." The brutal but liberating truth is that people don't react to who you are. They react to who they perceive you to be. Your actual competence and true intentions are secondary in the court of public opinion. What matters is the story people tell about you. The irreplaceable individual doesn't leave this story to chance. They write it themselves. Controlling the narrative isn't about lying. It's about strategic framing. It's the art of presenting facts in a way that leads people to the exact conclusion you want them to reach. Imagine a project fails. The average employee, believing in radical transparency, lists everything that went wrong. We missed the deadline because John's team was behind. The budget was cut. And I made a planning mistake. They've told the truth. They've also authored a narrative of failure and incompetence. They look like a victim of circumstance, and power is never given to victims. Now, watch the master of perception. They enter the same meeting and frame the narrative differently. This initial phase has been an invaluable stress test for our new system. It revealed critical weaknesses in our workflow that we can now correct. We've gathered crucial data that will allow us to relaunch with a much higher probability of success. I've already drafted a proposal to implement these learnings. See the difference? The facts are the same, but the narrative is transformed. Failure is reframed as invaluable learning. A mistake is data collection. Helplessness is now proactive leadership. They aren't the victim. They're the strategist who gained wisdom from a setback. They've controlled the perception. To become the author of your own reality, first, master the preemptive frame. Before a meeting or review, decide what you want the audience to believe. Frame the conversation from the start. Don't say, "Here's our quarterly report." Instead, try, "I'm going to walk you through how we stabilize revenue in a volatile quarter," and set the stage for future growth. You've just given them the lens through which to view your data. Second, weaponize social proof. Humans are herd animals. They look to others for cues. When you succeed, ensure it's amplified. Forward the email where a client praised your work to your boss with a note. "Great team win." You're not just building goodwill. You're building a network of validators who will echo your desired narrative. Third, create and control your symbols. Power is communicated through symbols. How you dress, speak, and even the background of your video calls are all part of your narrative. Consciously curate every symbol associated with you. Let nothing be accidental. You're building an appearance of competence. And, as Machiavelli taught, it is essential to appear to have these qualities. The naive let others define them. The powerful understand that perception is a battlefield. They seize control of the narrative with deliberate intent. If you can control what people believe, you can control how they behave. Rule 5: build systems of dependence, not relationships of goodwill. You've been taught that networking is about building relationships and fostering goodwill. The theory is that if people like you, they'll help you. This is a fragile foundation for power. Goodwill is an emotion, and like all emotions, it's fickle. A person who helps you today out of friendship may refuse tomorrow when it costs them something. Machiavelli would see this as amateurish. A true strategist doesn't just build a network of friends. They build a system of dependencies. This captures a core Machiavellian idea. A wise ruler should rely on what's in his own control, not on what is under the control of others. Your colleague's affection is under their control. Their need for you, however, can be brought under yours. To become irreplaceable, you must become a critical hub. You must methodically make others dependent on you for something they need to succeed. This isn't about being a gatekeeper who creates bottlenecks. That just makes you a target. It's about becoming the source of a unique and vital resource. Be it knowledge, access, or a particular skill. Consider two IT specialists. The first, Tom, is the friendly helper. He's great at fixing computers. People like him. He's useful, but replaceable. Any competent IT person can fix a computer. The second specialist, Maria, takes a different approach. She notices multiple departments are struggling with a complex new software. Instead of just fixing ad hoc problems, she masters the system at a level no one else has. She then builds custom dashboards and reports that make the data actionable. She doesn't just give these away. She teaches key people how to use them, making herself the go-to person for any advanced queries. Within 6 months, marketing, sales, and operations all rely on her system for their core strategies. Their success is now directly tied to the tools she built. They are dependent on her. She hasn't just built relationships. She has built an infrastructure of necessity with herself at the center. When it's time for promotions, Tom is a helpful guy. Maria is mission-critical infrastructure. If Tom leaves, he's replaced. If Maria threatens to leave, the company will do everything to keep her. Because her departure would cripple 3 other departments. She has become a system, not just a person. To start building your own system of dependency. First, identify the pain of your organization. What are the systemic problems or knowledge gaps that everyone complains about, but no one owns? Find the one thing that, if solved, would unlock value for multiple teams. Second, become the sole source provider. Once you identify the pain, become the unique solution. Don't be a jack of all trades. Be the absolute master of one critical domain that others need to access. Third, embed. Don't just provide. Don't just give advice. Build a process, a tool, or a system that becomes part of the regular workflow of others. Integrate your solution so deeply that removing it would cause tangible disruption. Fourth, control the access. Not just the information. Share your knowledge, but maintain control over the advanced application of that knowledge. Maria taught others how to use her dashboards, which only made them more dependent on her for the next level of strategic insight. Stop trying to be liked. Start thinking like an architect. Your goal isn't to be the most popular person in the building. It's to be the foundation. When the storm comes, friendships wash away, but foundations remain. Rule 6, strike with decisive timing, then disappear in the theater of power. Your every move is scrutinized. The common advice is to be constantly engaged and fight every battle. This approach is exhausting and, paradoxically, makes you weak. It renders you predictable and drains your political capital on trivial fights. The master strategist knows power isn't about constant action. It's about decisive action at the perfect moment. While Machiavelli didn't lay out a strike and disappear rule, his work is obsessed with the interplay between personal ability, birth, and circumstance, fortune. A key part of that ability is knowing the perfect moment to act, conserving strength while enemies exhaust themselves, and then striking with overwhelming force when conditions are perfect. The essence of this rule is this: don't engage in every fight. Most are a waste of energy. Stay in the shadows, observe, and gather your strength. Wait for the one critical moment when a single well-aimed blow can achieve a massive result. Then, after you strike and win, do the most counterintuitive thing. Disappear back into the shadows. Why disappear? Because the aftermath of a victory is dangerous. You've revealed your strength, which creates envy and mocks you as a threat. If you stay in the spotlight, you make yourself a stationary target. Be retreating, you deny them that target. You regain your mystique and leave them wondering what you'll do next. Your absence becomes as powerful as your action. Consider a corporate budget meeting with 10 items on the agenda. The amateur argues about every single one. By the end, they've won a few small victories, but they're exhausted and have annoyed everyone. The strategist, however, sits through the first 8 items in silence. They listen and observe. Their chosen battle is item 9, funding for a major new initiative that could redefine their career. All the energy they conserved is now unleashed in a single, focused, and devastatingly well-prepared argument. They win the war that matters. And then, in the following weeks, they don't gloat. They put their head down and execute. They disappear from the political scene and reappear as the leader of a successful initiative. They let the result of their strike become their new source of power. This is the rhythm of the predator. A lion doesn't chase every gazelle. It waits, hidden, for the perfect moment. Then, a sudden, explosive burst of action. And then, silence. To master this rhythm, first, define your critical objectives. Out of 20 things on your plate, which one or two will truly shape your future? Have the discipline to let the others go. Conserve your strength for the fights that matter. Second, develop strategic patience. Patience isn't passivity. It's active waiting. While others react to every email, you are observing, planning, and waiting for the opportune moment. A rival is distracted or when the market shifts. Third, master the decisive blow. When you strike, it must be with conclusive force. In the brutal world of 16th century statecraft, Machiavelli advised that injuries should be so severe you don't have to fear revenge. The modern corporate equivalent. Your victory in a debate must be so complete that it ends the argument for good. Fourth, practice strategy withdrawal. After a major success, resist the urge to take a victory lap. Lower your profile. Let your success speak for you. Your silence after a big win will be deeply unsettling to your rivals and enhance your reputation as a serious, results-oriented player. Stop being a frantic amateur. Start being a patient hunter. Choose your targets with care. Wait for the perfect moment. Strike with decisive force, and then melt back into the shadows. They won't see you coming, and after you've won, they won't know where to find you. Rule 7. Avoid overexposure and the hunger for validation in an age of social media and personal branding. The final rule, inspired by Machiavelli, is the most countercultural. True power lies in mystery, not fame. The hunger for recognition, for likes, for public validation. This is not a source of strength, but a profound vulnerability. The more people know about you, the more predictable you become. And the more predictable you are, the easier you are to control. Machiavelli lived in a world of conspiracies, where a misplaced word could mean ruin. He understood that a leader's power was amplified by what was not known about him. Power diminishes when it's fully explained. It's magnified by mystique. The modern professional is trained to do the opposite. They build detailed LinkedIn profiles, tweet their every thought, and share personal struggles to appear authentic. They are, in essence, handing the map of their own psychology to their competitors for free. They reveal what motivates them, what angers them, what they fear. And once someone knows your triggers, they own you. The irreplaceable individual understands their inner world as a strategic asset that must be protected. They cultivate an aura of deliberate ambiguity. They are visible, but not fully known. Their actions are clear, but their motivations are private. People know what they do, but they're never sure why. This uncertainty is a powerful form of influence, forcing others to constantly say. Consider the leader who's an open book. They share their doubts, vent their frustrations, and are transparent about their ambitions. They think this makes them relatable. In reality, it makes them weak. Their team sees their doubt and loses confidence. Their rivals hear their frustrations and learn how to provoke them. Now consider the leader who cultivates mystery. They are calm under pressure, their emotional state unreadable. They make bold decisions without seeking consensus. They listen intently, but reveal little of their own thought process. This leader isn't an open book. They're a locked vault. People don't know if their silence means they are pleased or disappointed. They don't know if a bold move is a calculated risk or the first step in a grander strategy. This mystique creates a powerful gravity. People are drawn to what they can't understand. To embrace the power of mystery, first, curate your digital footprint with ruthless discipline. Your public profile is a billboard, not a diary. It should project only what you want the world to perceive. Remove anything that reveals emotional vulnerability or unstrategic opinions. Every post should serve a purpose, or you shouldn't post at all. Second, stop explaining why. In many situations, you don't owe anyone an explanation. When you state a decision, state it with calm finality. The more you justify, the more you invite debate and signal a lack of confidence. Let the results of your decision be its justification. Third, find your validation internally. The hunger for external validation is a chain. Break, Italiano. Your sense of accomplishment must come from meeting your own standards, not from the applause of others. When you are the source of your own validation, you become immune to the emotional manipulation of others. Fourth, separate your person from your persona. You must have a private space where you can be your full, messy, human self. This space is for a tiny circle of trusted confidants. Outside your professional sphere, your professional persona, however, is a carefully constructed identity designed to achieve your strategic objectives. Never confuse the two. In a world that screams for attention, choose silence. In a world that begs for validation, choose silence. In a world that demands transparency, choose mystery. They'll call you distant, unreadable, intimidating. Let them. What they're really saying is that they can't figure you out. And because they can't figure you out, they can't control you. And what they cannot control, they can never, ever replace. We've journeyed through 7 rules for modern power, all drawn from the timeless, ruthless wisdom of a 500-year-old playbook. Master your presence and silence. Understand that respect born of fear is more reliable than affection. Embody both the lion and the fox. Control the narrative, because perception is the only reality that matters. Build systems of dependence. Strike with precision, then vanish. And finally, cloak yourself in mystery. These principles aren't a path to being liked. They're a path to being necessary. They aren't about fleeting popularity. They're about enduring power. The world is full of talented, hardworking, and ultimately replaceable people. They play by the rules they were given. But you are learning to see the hidden game, the one played by strategists, the one that truly determines who rises and who falls. This knowledge demands a choice. You can continue to be the loyal, hardworking employee, hoping your value will one day be recognized. Or you can decide to become the architect of your own indispensability. You can become the one they cannot afford to lose. The choice is yours. If you're serious about making that choice, then make a commitment to yourself right now. Go to the comments and write this oath. I am the power they can't replace. This is more than a comment. It's a declaration of intent. It's the first step on a new path. And if you want to continue down this path, to explore the deeper strategies of power and influence, then subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. The game is waiting. It's time for you to make your move.